Hello students, today we will discuss about the development of nervous system. The development of nervous system it take place from neural tube. So we have already discussed about the formation of neural tube. Neural tube is divided into two parts, cranial dilated part and caudal tubular part. Cranial dilated part give origin to brain and caudal tubular part forms the spinal cord. So first of all, let us discuss about the development of brain. The cranial dilated part of neural tube, it grow and enlarges in size and give rise to three dilatations which are arranged from cranial to caudal direction in the form of the cranial most dilatation is known as prosencephalon, middle dilatation is known as mesencephalon, and caudal dilatation is known as rhombencephalon. With further growth and enlargement, the prosencephalon it divides into two parts, telencephalon and diencephalon. Then central part remain as such, that is mesencephalon, and rhombencephalon also grow and form two parts, metencephalon, that is cranial part, and myelencephalon, that is the caudal part, that is formed in the developing neural tube. The parts of the brain develop from these subdivisions of the neural tube. Telencephalon forms the cerebral cortex and the corpus striatum. Diencephalon forms the thalamus, hypothalamus, optic stalk, and pars nervosa of hypophysis cerebri, or we can say posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. Mesencephalon forms the midbrain. Metencephalon forms the pons and cerebellum, and myelencephalon forms the medulla oblongata, and medulla oblongata is continuous below with the tubular part of the neural tube that forms the spinal cord. In early ages of development, prosencephalon, mesencephalon and rhombencephalon, these are arranged craniocaudally in the linear manner. But with the further growth and development of these structures, their relative position is greatly altered by the appearance of certain flexures in their cores. Flexures are the bends which appear at different places. The first flexure or bend that appears is the cervical flexure, which appears at the junction of rhombencephalon and the spinal cord. Second flexure is mesencephalic flexure, which appears in the region of midbrain or mesencephalon. It is also known as cephalic flexure. Next flexure is pontine flexure, which appears at the junction of metencephalon and myelencephalon in the mid of rhombencephalon. Then at last telencephalic flexure appears, that is between the telencephalon and diencephalon. This flexure appear late. These flexures leads to orientation of different parts of the brain as in adults. So appearance of different flexures and further growth and enlargement of different parts of the brain, these help brain to attain its normal adult size and shape. Each of the subdivision of the developing brain encloses cavity of neural tube within it. The cavity of each telencephalic vesicle becomes the lateral ventricle, and that of diencephalon forms the third ventricle. The cavity of mesencephalon remains narrow and forms the cerebral aqueduct. Then The cavity of rhombencephalon means both metencephalon and myelencephalon forms the fourth ventricle, which continue with the cavity of the spinal cord, that is known as central canal. Then come to the development of spinal cord. Spinal cord develops from caudal cylindrical part of the neural tube. These are the diagrams of cut sections of spinal cord during different periods of development. So first diagram shows the cut section across the lower tubular part of the neural tube during early periods when neural tube is first formed. So during early periods of development of the spinal cord, the cavity of the spinal cord, it is visible in the form of dorsoventral cleft. Cleft means a narrow area. Its lateral wall is thick, but the roof and floor, these are thin areas. Roof is also known as dorsal part and floor is the ventral part of the tube. With further growth and development of this tube, the lateral thickened wall, it gets further subdivided into three layers. That is, the outermost layer is marginal layer, middle layer is mantle layer, and innermost layer is known as ependymal layer. The mantle layer or mantle zone, it grows faster towards the ventral part of the tube. So this is ventral part of tube, this is dorsal part of the tube. So in this diagram we can see the mantle layer, it grow much faster towards the ventral part, and towards the dorsal part its growth is less. So because of this excessive growth in the ventral part, there occur compression in the lumen of the cavity of the spinal cord. So this area, this cavity, it gets compressed because of this overgrowth. So because of this unequal growth in the mantle layer, there appears a line of separation between the anterior thickened part and posterior thin part. So that line of separation is known as sulcus limitans. So because of the appearance of the sulcus limitans, the lateral wall of the developing spinal cord, it is divisible into two parts. Dorsal part that lies behind the sulcus limitans, that is known as alar lamina, and the ventral part which is present anterior to sulcus limitans, that is known as basal lamina. This division into alar lamina and basal lamina is of great functional importance. The basal lamina develops into those structures which are motor in function, and the alar lamina develop into those structures that are sensory in function. The alar lamina and basal lamina are also known as alar and basal plates respectively. With continued growth in the thickness of mantle layer, the spinal cord gradually acquires its definitive form. With further growth of alar lamina of the spinal cord, the dorsal part of cavity of the spinal cord, it gets obliterated, and posterior median septum is formed in this area. The dorsal part of the cavity, it gets obliterated, and the ventral part of the cavity, it remains in the form of central canal within the spinal cord. Further enlargement of the basal lamina causes it to project forwards on either side of the midline, and because of this growth, this median furrow appears between these two projecting basal laminae, and this furrow is known as anterior median fissure. The nerve cell which develop in the basal lamina of this mantle layer, that forms the neurons of anterior gray column, and the nerve cells appear in the mantle layer of alar lamina forms the neurons of the posterior gray column. We will discuss in brief about the formation of various parts of the nervous system. First of all, medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata is present just above the spinal cord, and it develops from myelencephalon. The early development of medulla oblongata is similar to that of the spinal cord because of their close relation. If we see the cut section across the medulla oblongata, the internal structure of medulla is same as that of the spinal cord. There is presence of sulcus limitans in the lateral wall, which divides the lateral wall into two parts, basal lamina and alar lamina. Basal lamina is present towards the ventral side and alar lamina towards the dorsal side. There is thin roof plate and thin floor of the medulla oblongata. With the further growth of medulla oblongata, the thin roof plate, it becomes greatly widened. So, as a result of which the alar lamina come to lie dorsolateral. Dorsolateral means this is basal lamina. To basal lamina, the position of alar lamina is behind and on the lateral side, that is dorsolateral. So the position of alar lamina is dorsolateral to the basal lamina. Both these laminae, these lie in the floor of the fourth ventricle, which is a large cavity present in relation to the medulla oblongata. So this is the cavity of fourth ventricle present in close relation to medulla oblongata, and pons, which is present above the medulla. Some cells from the lateral part of the each alar lamina, these migrate ventrally and reach the marginal layer. In the marginal layer, these lies ventrolaterally to the basal lamina. These cells constitutes the caudal part of bulbopontine extension. This is bulbopontine extensions and develop into olivary nucleus. Remaining cells of the alar lamina develop into sensory nuclei of the cranial nerves related to medulla, and motor nuclei of the nerves related to medulla are derived from basal lamina. Next comes to development of pons. Pons develop from ventral part of metencephalon present above medulla oblongata. So this diagram shows the parts from which pons and medulla oblongata develop. So development of pons take place from ventral aspect of the metencephalon. It also receives contribution from the alar lamina of the myelencephalon in the form of cranial part of the bulbopontine extension. This extension come to lie ventral to metencephalon and give rise to pontine nuclei. The internal structure of developing pons is same as that of the medulla oblongata. The roof of the metencephalon, it becomes thin and broader. Alar lamina and basal lamina are oriented as in the medulla oblongata. So in between the roof and these laminae, there is presence of cavity of the fourth ventricle. Lateral part of each alar lamina of the metencephalon becomes specialized to form cerebellum. So this area, this lateral area of the alar lamina is known as rhombic lip. The ventral part of alar lamina gave origin to sensory cranial nerve nuclei that are related to pons, and the basal lamina gave origin to motor cranial nerve nuclei of the pons. Next comes to development of midbrain. Midbrain develops from mesencephalon, and the cavity of the mesencephalon, it remains narrow and forms the cerebral aqueduct. The internal structure of developing midbrain resembles to that of spinal cord, means lateral wall is having basal lamina lying ventrally and dorsal alar lamina separated by sulcus limitans. In the developing midbrain, the nuclei which develop from the basal lamina are oculomotor nerve nucleus, trochlear nerve nucleus, and Edinger-Westphal nucleus. nuclei formed from basal lamina are shown in this area. Alar lamina give rise to cells of the colliculi. Some cells from the alar lamina, these migrate ventrally to form the red nucleus and the substantia nigra. The marginal layer of ventral part of mesencephalon is invaded by downward growing fibers of corticospinal, corticobulbar and corticopontine pathway. This region becomes greatly expanded and forms the crus cerebri of the midbrain. Next is the development of cerebellum. Cerebellum develops from dorsolateral part of the alar lamina. This part of alar lamina is known as rhombic lip. This part of the alar lamina, it starts to grow in the form of two primordia, which are right and left primordia. The growth extends medially in the roof plate of the metencephalon, and these growing primordia, these fuse across the median plane. As the cerebellum increases in size, fissures appears on its surface. The lateral lobes and vermis can soon be distinguished as a result of the differential growth. So this orange color area, it is the developing cerebellum, and developing cerebellum can be distinguished into two parts. One part is intraventricular part, which extends into the cavity of the developing fourth ventricle. So this part is intraventricular part, and other part is extraventricular. This part, outer part, that is seen as a bulging on the surface. At first, cerebellum also consists of three layers, same as that of the spinal cord, that is marginal layer, mental layer and ependymal layer. With further growth and development, some cells from the mental layer migrate into the marginal layer that forms the cerebellar cortex, and the cells of mental layer that do not migrate into the marginal layer, that forms the dentate nucleus, emboliform nucleus, globose nucleus and nucleus fastigi. Superior cerebellar peduncle is formed by axons growing out of the dentate nucleus. This is superior cerebellar peduncle. Then middle cerebellar peduncle is formed by axons growing into the cerebellum from the cells of pontine nucleus. So here lies the pontine nucleus, and the fibers passes to cerebellum, which constitutes the middle cerebellar peduncle. And inferior cerebellar peduncle is formed by nerve fibers that grow into the cerebellum from the spinal cord and the medulla oblongata. Development of cerebral hemisphere. Cerebrum is derived from prosencephalon. Prosencephalon is divisible into median diencephalon and two lateral telencephalic vesicles. Telencephalic vesicles give rise to cerebral hemisphere and the corpus striatum. Diencephalon give rise to thalamus, hypothalamus and the related structures. Telencephalic vesicles are at first small as compared to diencephalon, but later on telencephalon grow rapidly in size and extends upwards, backwards and forwards. As a result of this growth, the telencephalon comes to completely cover the lateral surface of the diencephalon. So in the interior aspect, this dotted line shows the diencephalon, and telencephalon is visible in the form of this growing structure, which is covering the diencephalon at its lateral aspect. With further growth, the lateral surface of diencephalon, it gets fused with the medial aspect of the cerebral hemisphere. Thus, the cerebral cortex and the corpus striatum come to lie lateral to the thalamus and hypothalamus, which develop in the diencephalon area, with further upward, forward and backward extension of the telencephalic vesicles. The vesicles of the two sides, that is right half and left half, these come to lie opposite to each other in the area above, in front and behind the diencephalon. The cavity of the diencephalon forms the third ventricle, and the cavity of two telencephalic vesicles forms the lateral ventricle. So in this way, telencephalon forms the cerebral cortex and two telencephalic vesicles forms the complete cerebrum and enclose the diencephalon part within them. Two cerebral hemispheres encloses the lateral ventricle within them, and the diencephalon, it encloses the third ventricle within it. Thalamus and hypothalamus are developed from the diencephalon. After establishment of telencephalon, the lateral wall of diencephalon, it gets thickened and soon divide into three regions. This is the diagram showing lateral wall of the diencephalon, and it is divisible into three areas by the appearance of two sulcus, epithalamic sulcus and hypothalamic sulcus, and the three areas are epithalamus, thalamus and hypothalamus. Epithalamus on further growth is represented by the pineal body and habenular nucleus. Thalamus get larger in size, and the part below the hypothalamic sulcus forms the hypothalamus. Formation of corpus striatum. Corpus striatum is derived from telencephalon. So this area purple in color is the telencephalon. Early in its development, each telencephalic vesicle can be subdivided into two parts: thickened basal part and thin superior part. Some cells in the mental layer of this thick basal part migrate into the overlying marginal layer. Means some cells from this area, these migrate laterally into the marginal layer and forms the cerebral cortex. And the remaining cells of this area which do not migrate into marginal layer, that forms the corpus striatum. In this diagram we can see this is cerebral cortex and this is the corpus striatum. So cerebral cortex sends some nerve fibers through the corpus striatum. These fibers constitutes the internal capsule, and these fibers divides the corpus striatum into two parts: superficial part and deep part. The part of corpus striatum which lies superficial to the internal capsule, this is known as lentiform nucleus, and the part which lies deeper to the internal capsule is known as caudate nucleus. Lentiform nucleus soon divides to form putamen and globus pallidus. Formation of cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex is derived from telencephalon. It is formed by migration of cells from the mental layer of telencephalon into the overlying marginal layer. These cells divide and subdivide to form considerable thickening of the cortex. By a full term of pregnancy, or when the embryo is fully matured, the cerebrum consists of several layers of cells. Simultaneously, there is considerable side-to-side expansion of the cortex, as a result of which its surface area is greatly increased. The surface of cerebral hemisphere, it expands at a greater rate and this give rise to sulcus and gyrus formation on the surface of the cerebrum. Sulci and gyri appears due to folding of the substance of cerebral cortex. The bulk of cerebrum is formed by its white matter, which is present towards the center, and grey matter is present towards the periphery. So white matter of the cerebrum is constituted by axons of cortical cells that grow towards other areas of the cortex, either in the same or in the opposite cerebral hemisphere. The bulk of white matter is also formed by axons of cortical cells that grow downwards through the hemisphere on their way to the brainstem and spinal cord. Axons that connect the thalamus, hypothalamus, and basal ganglia to one another and to the cortex, and axons that grow into the hemisphere and that are coming from brainstem and the spinal cord.